Yes, indeed. That was Richard Hell and the Voldoids down at the Rock and Roll Club here at the top of the hour. KRFF 95.9 LPFM Moorhead, Fargo. RadioFreeFargo.org. You can stream that wherever and whenever you'd like. There's a donation button. You can handle that too. This is an awesome station, and we don't ask for nothing but good quality stuff we push out to you. Right before me was Side Stage with Trav, noon to 3. He had some crazy stuff going on here today. My show isn't going to have the same quality, but hey, I'm going to give you a bunch of words. There's going to be some tunes thrown in, and we're going to talk about cannabis in a positive light. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday at 4 o'clock. 4:20, I open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and this Thursday is no different. After me is usually Stinky Arts Music Mart, but that's not happening today. Locals on the 8 after that, and then Radio Free Madness is your Thursday here at Radio Free Fargo, KRFF 95.9. Again, RadioFreeFargo.org. You can stream and you can do a bunch of fun stuff. Just go there and check it out. Tell a buddy. The New Life Center helps people who are homeless and hurting go from merely surviving to truly thriving. Their aim is to help people. Oh, I was going to tell you what I do is I talk about cannabis in a positive light if you just showed up. Their aim is to help people in need discover value and find hope. The New Life Center has evolved into a multifaceted emergency and crisis service center. To learn more about NLC, visit the website at www.fargonlc.org or give them a call, 701-235-4453. And I say, I believe cannabis was created by a higher power. I believe that higher power shows up at Antioch Church in South Fargo, 10 a.m. Sundays. I'll be there. Come check it out. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy. Becky's Body Butter. Stuff's the business. It'll handle any sort of thing you need. It's got alpine hemp, CBD, some spices that Baby Jesus got. And you can go to blackcottagealchemy.com, Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, or you can go over to Tochi Products and tell Joe Wilson sent you and sign the ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition. It's also at Orange Records, and if you're not in Fargo, there's probably a town that has it somewhere. Just go to ndcannabiscaucus.com and they will tell you that. Again, thanks for joining me, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson, and we're going to talk about cannabis in a positive light at 4:20. I was out of town. I was visiting my daughter in Dickinson doing the Badlands Medora thing. So if you thought I planned for this, I didn't. I don't really have anything to talk about except my platform, and that's cannabis legalization. So it's either going to be a really good one or a really bad one, and you won't know till we get done with it. So strap on, put your medical card on the kitchen table, crush up some ice, and let's get this ship floating. Again, blackcottagealchemy.com. Black Cottage Alchemy, especially Becky's Body Butter, is bringing you this hour of Canna-Talk ND with Wilson here on Radio Free Fargo 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org. Canna-Talk ND on YouTube, Canna-Talk ND on Facebook, and we do this show minus the music on Canna-Talk ND on YouTube, usually around noon or 3. We're kind of ironing that out. Philip Cannahead Pilko is the man behind that. He does a Cannahead show on the same YouTube channel. Check it out if you'd like. And we're going to keep right on cruising here. But again, thanks for joining me. You and you and you. Again, sir, it'd be nice if you kept your shirt on for the show, but we're going to let it slide. Cannabis is making progress. Again, this is the third month that Illinois has sold more cannabis than booze. So, I mean, that's a big fat win for everything. South Dakota still no word on whether or not the judges believe that it was a single subject rule, that it was violated, and they'll kick out Amendment A. But the South Dakota for Better Cannabis Laws, they use the other word, but I'm not going to use it. Oh, for all you guys new, put your right hand up in the air and say, I do solemnly swear to never, ever call cannabis pot, dope, weed, or marijuana. I will only use its biblical name, cannabis, so help you God. Thank you. You guys are all in the club. Welcome. We're all up to speed. So, let's see. Why don't we get a little tune going here? This is Things You Can't Control, Soulja. Well, thank you, Soulja. Things That You Can't Control featuring Trevor Young. That was a groovy little reggae ditty here on Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. And at 4:20, we're going to talk us about some cannabis legalization and cannabis that's benefit for all and each and every one of you. Before then, we're going to play a little song. We're going to dance a little. And then at 4:20, we'll get you strapped in to another week of Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. We're going to talk about the benefits of cannabis. We're going to talk about how cannabis ain't bad. We're going to talk about how ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act is the constitutional amended ballot initiative that's being circulated by each and every one of you that are. And if you're not, you should. And if you are, kudos to you. ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act again. It's the only thing happening in North Dakota as far as I'm concerned. And it's not even about my concern. I just know that there's nothing happening. So if you want to contribute to your state's push to the legalizing of cannabis, 21 plus to possess, you can have 12 plants, 6 matured, 6 seedlings, licensed business only. And I think it's like you can't smoke outside where you can't smoke outside. I'm not really sure about that last one. But anyway, they have till, I believe, January of next year to get 26,000 signatures. And they need your help to get there. So while I have a few minutes, I will tell you, please sign the ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition. And if you've got a little extra time on your hand, why don't you get you a little clipboard all cool and slap a little something on the back of it, get you a little backpack and start wandering around. That's what I did. It's hard work, but, I mean, when you grind, if you got the time to grind, it pays off. That's what I'm saying to you. So ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition circulating as we speak in the state of North Dakota. 21 plus to possess, 12 plans, 6 up, 6 down, I like to say. It makes no sense. It's fun to do. Licensed business only, and you have to be in designated areas. Again, it was written or vetted by David Thompson, who is a lawyer, and it has been ran through its paces. But again, like I always say, there's states all over the fine U.S. of A. that had it vetted, that it even had it voted on. You know, South Dakota got 50-some% at the ballot box, and it's still in question now. And what's in question? The way it was written, what it said. You know, so that stuff is really, really tricky. But I got some brand new Bella Fleck. I don't know if you guys get down with Bella Fleck. Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. Been flecking around for as long as I can remember. This is a brand new album, My Bluegrass Heart. It's got Billy Strings. It's got Chris Steele, which if you ever heard that guy on the mandolin, you're going to now. Here's Charm School, Radio Free Fargo.
This is just a general wash.
Charm School.
Yeah.
Let's go again, guys.
Featuring Billy Strings and Chris Steele. That was the one and only Bella Fleck. My Bluegrass Heart, brand new. That's good stuff. Well, I don't know if you guys know, but I do. This is what happens now on Radio Free Fargo, KRFF 95.9, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday. 4:20, we open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and this is going to happen right now. That's queuing up.
Yo, it's Wilson from Canna-Talk ND. You know, the super awesome show you're getting ready to listen to. I think you should go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll wait. Okay, enjoy the show.
And start the day with a super fat J. Those are words to live by. So let's do it. Hello, everybody. How you doing? How's everybody doing out there? Hey, ma'am, you brought your sister. Good. Looking good. You just dye your hair? That's a good color on you. Sir, you did put your shirt on. Thank you. We're going to talk about cannabis in a positive light here. We're going to talk about some news related to the positivity of cannabis. And deep down, it might just be a bunch of made-up stuff that I'm going to use to fill up time. That's not entirely true, but normally I have web pages lined up. I don't read them because I get bored, so it's all fresh to me when I get here anyway. But I was visiting my daughter in Dickinson, and so I rode the stupid bus from Dickinson here, the Jefferson Lines. It's not horrible. It wasn't a horrible ride. The guy drove smooth. Because of COVID, you don't have to ride with nobody next to you, so that's pretty much a love seat that you get to relax on. So I slept till probably Valley City. And then got home and worked a full 8-hour shift because I'm a beast. I'm a beast. Ain't nothing lazy about this guy. My seat just dropped. I just dropped about 6 inches here, but I think I can handle it. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson. We're going to talk about cannabis in a positive light. ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act. If you're in North Dakota and you haven't signed or you want to sign, that's the cannabis legalization ballot initiative that's being circulated around the state. The government, the The legislators, ain't nobody doing nothing for you right now. Unless you want to get involved with the ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act and start getting signatures and hope that you get them all by January, and then you guys can be the heroes. You'll be the hero. So if you're interested in being the hero and you don't know how to give up, then I would suggest do it. 21 plus to possess, 12 plants, licensed business, and just an overall good. And the whole Constitution, like the amendment, a Constitution amendment, means that nobody can mess with it, really. It's a lot harder for them to change it. And as we've seen, they love to change it. Because if it isn't the way they like, then they come in there and they look at the weird word. They word hustle you. They word jive you, and then you don't understand what they're saying, but at the end it means no. So we're not down with that. So anyway, welcome. Thanks for listening to, I would figure if I talk 25 minutes, you should probably get at least 5 to 7 quality minutes out of me. Just kidding. But anyway, I do have some things to talk about. I just wanted to say now, though, that South Dakota, somebody was wondering, NugMD is the web page that you can go and apparently mecker up your medical license and then go to Santee Sioux Tribe, which is, if you're in Fargo, you would go straight south on the I-29. And it's like, I think it's like Yankton, don't quote me, but it's certainly accessible to Fargo. It looks like they honor other medical cards from other states, and it looks like the Sioux Tribe can kick you down same day and then go over and get you a little something. And that's all I've heard. But NugMD, I think, gets the ball rolling. Somebody was curious about that, so I'm answering that question. And then there's some car enthusiasts that like to buzz around in their hopped-up cars between Dickinson and Medora that listen to this show. So shout out to you dudes. That made my day. The fact that I got, a reach that goes more than, my home. And by home, I mean in my apartment, past my bedroom. What are we talking about? But anyway, shout out to you guys. It was crazy to get the feedback that there were people listening to me talk about cannabis and cannabis legalization. I am the Captain Green, the king of cannabis, and the mayor of Measure 3. And I'm still doing my thing, and this is where I'm settling in. But again, NugMD, that's where you can go in South Dakota, and you can get your medical card apparently right there on the Indian reservation. And then go right to the only dispensary that's pumping out product in the state of South Dakota as we speak. So let's give the only dispensary on an Indian reservation a hand. That's fantastic. So shout out South Dakota. Shout out Santee Sioux Tribe. Shout out Langton. Actually, it's not Yankton. It's Landro. No, Flandro. You're welcome. Flandro is where you can go get your loud or your gas or your... You know what I'm saying. But anyway, this is from Cannabis Moment. Missouri probation officers send patients back to prison for using legal medical cannabis. Now, let me just read that again because that sounds horrible. Missouri probation officers send patients, not criminals, right? They're not even using the word criminal here. Patients back to prison for using legal medical cannabis. So what's wrong in there? You got patients. You got legal. You got medical in there, but then you've got prison in there. That's horrible, isn't it? So we're going to read a little bit here. I'm going to turn down I'm kind of hot in the mic, Speaking of hot in the mic, man, here's the oxymoron, the conundrum. Here in Fargo, I would like to say the Fargo was too high today because of the temperature. But the temperature isn't really high. In fact, it was really cool this morning, about 60. But it's so smoky I can barely see my hand from the forest fire. So somebody's smoking in Fargo and forgot to open a window, or did open a window. But yeah, it's really smoky here. I don't know about y'all, wherever you're from. But those fires are really creeping into Fargo here. It's got like a cloudy haze, which... What I like about that is when the sun comes up, it looks like that Middle Eastern sun, And then when the sun goes down, it's got that cherry it's kind of a really neat, almost biblical color of moon. On June 23rd, 29-year-old Ray Breer walked through the gates of the Western Reception Diagnostic Correctional Center north of Kansas City into the arms of his family. His girlfriend, his mom, and his son, they were all waiting for him on the other side of the gate. We got yelled at by the guards because we all stood there taking pictures. There's a lot of catching up to do. He'd missed the birth of his son, having been taken into custody a few weeks before. And his crime, which cost him his liberty, I'll tell you. He's a registered medical cannabis patient, serving probation for a cannabis charge. He initially got in trouble with the law for a possession charge back in August 2019, went to prison for a short spell in 2020 after getting kicked out of drug court for smoking joints. In order to stay safe while on probation, he obtained a medical cannabis card. Smart guy, Lee. As is his constitutional right in Missouri. Yet after a P test came up positive for THC, that was enough for his probation officer to send him to prison. And but that's Missouri. That's the state of Missouri for you. Or state of misery. In court, they told him it's a privilege to be on probation and that in the future they are most likely not going to offer probation to medical cannabis patients. I don't even know what they're talking about. Let me read that again. In court, they told him it's a privilege to be on probation and that in the future they are most likely not going to offer probation to medical cannabis patients, which sounds to me like they're going to send them right up in the Huskow, they say in Germany. Breer was one of many drug war prisoners in the Show Me State supported by the Canna-Convict Project, which brought in expert witnesses to try and sway his case. Probation and parole and DOC is not recognizing a patient's ability to medicate while on supervision. And I'm pretty sure North Dakota would not be cool either. Our mission is to assist our non-violent Missouri cannabis inmates, POWs we call them, with their exit from incarceration and assisting them with their re-entry needs. Co-founder Christina Frommer told Filter. They kind of become family. I create a relationship with all the POWs with their families. I buy their children's presents. We try and give the whole person care. I don't know what that means, but the Canna-Convict Project is fighting for the rights of many impacted patients across the state to be allowed to access their medicine. Because what a weird gray area there. He's a registered medical patient. He has a card. He can legally consume and possess, but he's on probation. So if he tests for THC, all of a sudden they don't look at all that. They don't look at any of it. They just look at a criminal breaking the law. So that's just screwed up in Missouri. So some of the individuals have really cool probation officers or parole officers, and again, there we go. And they've been allowed to medicate while they've been on supervision, no problem. But you get some sort of cornfud, hey, buddy, come on, pay in the cup. And others have gone as far as receiving sanctions and gotten put back in prison. 2018, 65% of Missouri voters approved an amendment to the Constitution, which states, and again, amendment to the Constitution. And again, Missouri wouldn't have probably been able to push anything through if it wasn't an amended constitutional amendment, which is North Dakota, same deal. You know, North Dakota, when it comes to closed-minded and kind of like, narrow way of thinking, Missouri and North Dakota are pretty similar. So Missouri voters had to approve an amendment, and that's the thing. They approved an amendment to the Constitution, but yet it's not really recognized as important enough because they're still squashing on these guys and sending them back to prison. So Breer had such a card on account of his mental health condition and bipolar II disorder. It didn't help. So a valid qualifying patient cultivation identification card, a valid physician certification while making application for an identification card, or a valid primary caregiver card. It isn't just those already in the justice system who get in trouble either. In November 2019, 48-year-old Jamie Wilson, my cousin, just kidding, was pulled over with his grandson, Greg, just kidding, by a highway patrol trooper while driving through Davies County. The officer found 8 ounces of weed in his truck, cannabis which was within the limits he was allowed as a card-carrying marijuana patient, which I would imagine an officer doesn't know that he could legally have that much. I mean, you see 8 ounces in a truck, you know what I mean? But Wilson was arrested for possession and child endangerment. The charges were later dropped, but it goes to show the drug war mentality that persists in the state of Missouri. And again, I could easily make conjunction and parallel to the state of North Dakota and South Dakota. So Canna-Convict has identified many more cases of Missourians being locked up for their lawful meds, including those convicted on all sorts of non-drug charges. It is now taking the Missouri authorities to court with the help of lawyer Timothy. The case is not being filed on behalf of Breer or Wilson, my cousin, just kidding, but another one of Inta Simone's clients. My involvement with CCP was after I met Christina and seeing the work her and this other guy and this other girl were doing. I was highly impressed with the dedication and devotion to criminal justice reform, so my office really meshed with the groove of the project. Civil rights is kind of my wheelhouse, he said. He grew up very low income, roach infested home, mom working jobs, The same people that are disproportionately affected are the same people that may not have a voice to stand up and fight. So the argument he made will bring before the court is that of states' rights. If the issue is one of federal law, how are the wishes of Missourians being taken into account? Because they did vote it. So taking it across state lines remains a federal crime, even if you're unlikely to run into a DEA checkpoint in the Lincoln Tunnel. So we're asking the court to decide and clarify whether he, the client, can lawfully use cannabis with a valid Missouri medical card while on probation. However, that's not what the case was really about. The case is more about the Missouri Constitution. It is about whether a state agency acting under state law, under the state constitution, can punish someone while the amendment plainly states that they cannot be criminally punished under the state constitution. So cannabis is still a classified Schedule 1, which everybody knows, with no currently accepted medical use, and there is the rub. That's the problem. That's the problem right there. So we have to work to get that off. Here's some good news, I guess. Cannabis moment again. Idaho officials clear cannabis activists to collect signatures for a revised legalization ballot measure. Idaho officials have cleared, and as you know about Idaho, remember, Idaho was crazy. Idaho was the ones that, you know, that weird dude voted to not let them get anything. Let's see if they'll tell us that. But anyway, like I said, Idaho was in the news, and I was railing on that guy. I can't remember his name, but they were definitely anti-cannabis in Idaho, all of them. And not only were they against it, they wanted to create laws that wouldn't allow you to do a signature gathering. So this is good news. I didn't realize until I got it started. But yeah, Idaho was in bad shape when it came to potentially getting cannabis legalized. But apparently now they can begin collecting signatures for a revised initiative to legalize possession of cannabis that they hope to place before voters on the 2022 ballot. After being reviewed by the state attorney's general office, the latest version of the measure was uploaded to the Secretary of State in the final form. Meanwhile, a separate campaign to legalize cannabis in the state is also underway, with advocates actively collecting signatures to qualify that measure for next year's ballot. The attorney general previously outlined a number of concerns on potential legal issues with the adult use measure and made non-binding recommendations for changes. Activists with the coalition accepted some, but not all of them. We're excited to get started with this initiative, Russ says. He added that the campaign will be participating in events for signature collections, such as Hyde Park Strike. The legalization initiative would be fairly limited in scope compared to those that have passed in other states. It would make it so possession of up to 3 ounces would be lawful on private property. Home cultivation would be prohibited, of course. However, there would be no legal and licensed system of cannabis retailers. The idea is for consumers to be able to buy cannabis in neighboring states that have legal retail operations and then bring the product back to Idaho to be consumed privately at home. Whoa. What? Okay, let's read a little more. All we're asking voters to do is accept what people were already doing, driving across the border, legally purchasing cannabis and bringing it home to smoke. If Idaho still wants to give away the tax money, that's fine. But we shouldn't spend more tax money trying to arrest people in a futile attempt to stop them from consuming cannabis. So let me see if I figure this out. You can't grow it. There's no dispensaries. But if you happen to have 3 ounces on you and you're over 21 in a private property, nobody's going to ask you where you got it? I mean, federal interstate traveling, you go to Washington and come back? I mean, how many laws is that you're breaking? And it's federally, I mean, so you're telling me that they are going to say, listen, as a state of Idaho, we're going to be cool with neighboring states being where you get it, as long as we don't have to make stores and we don't have to let you grow it. That's crazy. So the purpose of the revisions that the activists made after Attorney General's review was to stay in compliance with the state's single subject rule for ballot initiatives and avoid any constitutional. But there is a complication. The governor signed a bill in April that requires a minimum of 6% of voters in all 35 districts in the state to sign a ballot proposal in order for it to qualify, whereas the law previously required that the threshold be reached in just 18 districts. I don't know what that means. I'm getting kind of bored, but it sounds to me like Idaho is making concession, because people really did freak out, because Idaho, I forget if it was the attorney general, but it was a dude that literally was like, he said, I refuse to have cannabis legalized in Idaho, and he decided to do whatever he could do to keep that from happening. So I just wanted to mention, I was going to read this because it has something to do with, they had an article about kratom, but it looks like they're going to try to make kratom illegal. It's also a beneficial medical item that's mostly legal, but they tried to make it illegal in the U.S. and they wouldn't let them. They go, no, we're going to keep it legal. So now it looks like the WHO is going to make it illegal federally, or in the world, and then that's what the U.S. will use to. That's what they'll use. So let me see here what we got here. Anyway, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday, 4 o'clock I get in here. 4:20 I open a big fat bag of cannabis news. This Thursday's no different here on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. RadioFreeFargo.org. You can stream that anywhere and everywhere that you are. I just got back from vacation, so I was in Dickinson looking at dead bison and, a lot of fun things like that. And so I didn't want to just cancel the show because I don't do that. And I did it 2 shows before. So, because I still got something in my house. I don't know if it's mold. I don't know if it's fleas. I don't have a dog. But went to the doctor this morning. Got me some prednisone. So, I'm not 100% to be honest with you. But cannabis is always 100%. Cannabis won't let you down. Cannabis is a beautiful supplement that everybody should utilize in their life. And so I appreciate everybody who's listening to me tell you that cannabis is not bad and we really need to get behind it in the state of North Dakota, and if that means getting your hind end out and getting signatures for. So I'm going to deviate a little bit. I found it. So this is Cannabis Moment, but it's FDA seeks public input on possible global kratom ban after domestic scheduling efforts stall. So after failing to get kratom prohibited. Yay, I did it. Let's give me pronouncing prohibited a hand. After failing to get kratom prohibited domestically, the FDA is now seeking public comment to inform the U.S. position on how the substance should be scheduled under international statute. In a notice published in the Register last week, the agency is soliciting feedback on a number of substances, and advocates are especially concerned about where FDA and global drug officials come down on kratom, which has been touted as a natural painkiller that works as a safer alternative to prescription opioids, and it works great for anxieties and ADD. I use it daily. So the U.S. agency doesn't quite see it that way, however. Kratom is abused for its ability to produce opioid-like effects. Kratom is available in several different forms. Kratom is an increasingly popular drug of abuse and readily available on the recreational drug market in the U.S. Responses to the notice will help inform the federal government's stance on kratom scheduling in advance of October meeting of the WHO Expert Committee on Drug Dependence. The FDA's request for public comments on a matter of such importance involving the international scheduling of kratom is an extraordinary abuse of their authority. He said the August 9th deadline for the responses allowed 3 weeks for scientists, public policymakers, and consumers to provide responses that are well-researched and responsive to the complex requirements for data. As it stands, kratom is not scheduled under the Federal Controlled Substance Act or under international drug treaties to which the U.S. is a party. And that'll be the problem. But some advocates suspect that since FDA has been unable so far to impose a ban on kratom domestically, it may use the WHO convention as an opportunity to get prohibition enacted internationally, a move that the country would be compelled to comply with. So that's kind of horrible. If that happens, there are 37 countries that are part of that international treaty that will effectively ban kratom around the world. The FDA can't get it scheduled here in the U.S. using the criteria that's established, so they're circumventing that and going to the WHO. So, I'm not the only one that uses kratom, and so, I don't know what we can do to, get this to not happen, but I'm going to read another kind of fun article. It's not fun at all, but I'm going to read it because I got a show here. I got a show about cannabis legalization, and I got to talk about cannabis legalization because that's what my show is. However, it's really smoky. Fargo, somebody's got a big old fat joint rolling in Fargo, and it smells a lot like trees, and not the hip jargon word trees, but literal trees. It actually almost smells like there's like some plastic bags in the forest, too. So House approves cannabis baking, employment, and DC. Did I say baking? I meant banking, employment, and DC sales provisions in large-scale spending bill. So the U.S. reps on Thursday approved a package of spending legislation that contains measures to provide protections for banks that work with state legal cannabis businesses and allow the legalization of cannabis sales in Washington, D.C., among many other drug policy provisions. The appropriation legislation attached reports also direct federal government agencies to reconsider policies that fire employees for using cannabis in compliance with state law, criticize restrictive hemp regulations, encourage CBD to be allowed in foods, and urge expanded research on cannabis and other substances. While not every included provision is pro-reform, and some measures that activists wanted to see added were blocked, advocates are generally pleased with the wide range of issues addressed in the minibus legislation that covers annual funding for a bunch of these committees. And they are looking forward to votes on even more far-reaching cannabis amendments that are up for consideration. So the legislation restricts the use of certain funds to punish banks. None of the funds made available in this act may be used to penalize a financial institution solely because the whatever da-da-do, And the Biden budget was released, and they were very disappointed over the decision, especially considering the fact that he's voiced support for statehood. So it's a budget proposal from President Joe, seeks to maintain the provision on denying D.C. autonomy to legalize cannabis commerce, which again, if he did say, he did imply, I'm not going to lie, while he was running, that he was kind of cool. I think we kind of knew he could be kind of not cool, but he's certainly kind of backing away. So let me just say, this hour of programming on KRFF 95.9 LPFM is being underwritten by Rough Cut Social. Rough Cut is Fargo's ultimate entertainment destination for axe throwing. Enjoy fun with family and friends, a stellar team building excursion, or book your party. College students enjoy a discount with valid ID. Rough Cut comes complete with a full beer, wine, and soda bar for your perfect time out. Rough Cut is located at 1100 MP Avenue, Suite 102 in Fargo. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram, or visit their website at roughcutsocial.com for more information. Again, that's Rough Cut Social underwriting. Thank you, Rough Cut Social, for letting us tell everybody that they should go throw some hacks. They should throw some axe at a wood block and not hurt yourself. So anyway, Rough Cut Social here on Radio Free Fargo, KRFF 95.9, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday I get in here at 4:20. I open a big fat bag of cannabis news. Right before me is Side Stage with Trav. He had a bunch of people in here doing his thing today. That's a show you want to check out. And then me, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, 4 to 5. And then usually it's Stinky Arts Music Mart directly after me, but that's not happening today. And then Locals on the 8. And then Radio Free Madness. We talk about cannabis in a positive light. Let me just mention again, ND for Freedom, a Cannabis Act, is the petition that's circulating in the state of North Dakota. If you want to get involved, I suggest you get a hold of ndcannabiscaucus.com, and they will send you in the right direction. So again, I'm Wilson, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Shout out to those dudes that are in a car club in Medora, Dickinson, for listening to this show. I salute you. I love hearing that people are listening to this, because as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, I'm the only one listening. There's only me in here, and so I just come here every day hoping that what I'll share and what I'll say educates people on the benefits of cannabis. And then if they thought, if they were just wandering along on the radio dial and all of a sudden they heard somebody talking about cannabis in a positive, light, that they may either change their mind or feel comforted knowing that they believe what I believe, and that there is forward movement, and there is somebody that's got a microphone, me, that's talking about how cannabis is a supplement, it's a plant, it's just a plant. And so we really need to be tapping into that a little more, especially with all the synthetic and, pharmaceutical crap that I know I've personally done and been addicted to, and it just has side effects that cannabis does not have. And again, that's just all there is to it. So I'm going to blast out a little toony tune here for you. Yes, sir. Ben Harper, Bring the Funk. That's from the Diamonds on the Inside album. Well, we've done it. Another Canna-Talk ND with Wilson in the bag. This show, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy. Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, blackcottagealchemy.com. The product I push specifically is Becky's Body Butter. She's got other things in the particular line that you can get at Tochi Products. And while you're in there getting some Becky's Body Butter, which is really good stuff. I mean, I use it. My family uses it. I've never heard anybody that used it that said, I'm not using this again. And so it's made with love. It's made locally. And so get you some at Tochi Products. And while you're in there, sign the ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition. You can go to Orange Records. I think he still may have some bracelets there left. Get in there, sign it. And if you're in another town, reach out, Indie Cannabis Caucus. Find out where there's a business you can sign, or if you could just get hooked up with a packet. Time is running out, and once it gets winter time, it's going to be hard to be bumping the streets. So, again, educate yourself so you can educate others. Come on back here next Thursday. I'll be more prepared to blow quality smoke in your face when it comes to legalizing cannabis and the benefits of it. Again, I'm going to jump out a little early here today because I didn't want to drag it on and just, I could hum, I could maybe bring out the kazoo, but just stick around and wait for Locals on the 8, Radio Free Madness. Next week, Stinky Arts Music Mart directly after me will happen. As always, Thursday before me, Side Stage with Trav. RadioFreeFargo.org. You can go donate. You can listen anywhere and just be a part of the super cool, awesome independent radio station that doesn't do it the way normal radio stations do it. And in fact, it's better. You give the control to the individual. You don't get stuck into like commercials that people want you to do. Force you to play certain songs. Nobody likes that. And I guarantee you, we'll just guess turn your knob to Bob would not let me come in and talk about the benefits of cannabis at 4 o'clock. I don't think I could open a big fat bag of cannabis news at 4:20 on Bob. So that just shows you this station's better. So just keep it locked here. Do your part. Help us keep us on. And I'll see you goofballs next Thursday. So again, David Allen, Judgment Day. Peace. Peace. Peace.